Skoda has updated the Enyaq for 2024. Both the coupe and the standard model get some minor changes. The main thing you'll notice is that it has the company's new corporate identity on its nose. What's more important is that there's been a number of improvements to the powertrain. So the power output rises to 210 kilowatts. Perhaps more importantly, acceleration increases, and also so does the range. This coupe will now do 576 kilometers on a single charge. And to put that to the test, we've driven it here to the Sahara. At the back, you've got the new Skoda word mark across there. And also this being the new model means it's now no longer an 80, it's now an 85. And this is the X, meaning it's the all-wheel drive version. All of the Enyaqs no longer carry the IV badge on it as well. Basically, it's normalizing its all-electric range. When it comes to charging, Skoda has also improved the software. It still has 135 kilowatt maximum DC, but it now has better battery preconditioning. So when you are going to go and charge, it will do it much more efficiently. It's slightly shaved another minute or two off that crucial 10 to 80% charge. The interior hasn't changed a great deal, but in my opinion, it remains one of the best interiors of an EV around. Just the layout works very well in terms of the amount of storage you have. You've got plenty of space here. You've got a wireless charging, you've got cup holders, more space, extra storage underneath here. It's all well laid out, and also the material quality is nice as well. It's all the sort of nice fabrics, nice materials. You've got a little bit of kind of faux carbon here in this Sportline model, but perhaps the most important thing with the 2024 update is that the software of the infotainment system has also been improved. Now, it was already pretty good, and I'm a big fan of this large screen in terms of how it works and the layout of the native infotainment system, and it's just got some extra improvements and enhancements to make that even better for this year. Gains in efficiency are always going to be welcome in any electric car. And really, this is a perfect test here in Morocco to see exactly how much better this car is. Okay, it's extremely hot. It's just about 30 degrees Celsius at the moment, which is probably just a little bit on the warm side for where an EV likes to be in its optimum operating window. But means we've got our aircon on the whole time, and we're getting an idea of what it's like to go through some pretty harsh and challenging topography. Up over the Atlas Mountains, you've got some really steep inclines as well, and during those you see exactly how that extra bit of power does come in handy. You have so much torque immediately available, which is again a fantastic thing with any electric vehicle. The roads are also surprisingly good here as well, far better than in many European countries, including in Ireland. And that's kind of unusual given how extreme the rest of the environment is here. But the roads are actually great, and getting between the cities couldn't be easier. Now, charging infrastructure here is nowhere near as advanced as what we have in Europe, but again, that longer range means we've had very little worries. We're driving out into the Sahara Desert to a base camp tonight, and well, not really worried about it. Whereas, you know, several years ago, this would have been almost impossible to even consider doing. You'd be fraught with range anxiety and where you're going to charge. In reality, according to the trip computers and the onboard computer, we're going to get there to our base camp with a little over 50% charge still remaining. So you don't really have to think about it, even in these kind of slightly more extreme or more far-flung places in the world.
One thing you do realise when you're driving in Morocco and get outside of the cities is just how vast this country is. You can see the snow-topped Atlas Mountains in the background there, but driving out into the desert, we made this stop off here at the Noor power station. It's just outside the city of Ouarzazate, and it's a really impressive facility. It uses solar energy, but does a number of different methods in order to generate electricity for the surrounding area. In fact, it feeds a little over 2 million homes with energy. And it does that thanks in part to the abundance of sunshine that you get here year round. Now, it's only really when we got into the lift and started to go up in the tower here that you get an idea of just how vast this facility is. Those solar panels seem to stretch on forever into the distance, and this is only one side of it. It's a number of different facilities or different units throughout this whole site that's used to harness the energy of the sun and create clean energy. And perhaps the most visually impressive is this tower. This is part of what's called Noor 3. It's the third site that was built, and it's phenomenal looking site. In fact, even when you're landing in Ouazzazate Airport, you can make this out if you're sitting on the right side of the plane. So in order to get an idea of what it's like, before we went out there, we had a quick introduction with some of the staff here to get an idea of exactly the work they do. And then we went downstairs, we got back in the Enyaqs, and we drove out to that tower, out to Noor 3 with Mustapha, who's the site manager, and he's going to explain a little bit more about that site.
Mustapha, first of all, thank you so much for welcoming us here. This facility it's like something from a movie. It's really visually incredible, but there's a lot of great technology here. So can you tell us a bit of the history about this Noor site?
Thank you, David. So we are now in Noor 3 plant, which is the third solar plant built in the Noor complex of Ouarzazate. We start to build this complex about 2013. Okay, we finished the first one by the end of 2015. It was inaugurated on the 4th of February. I'm talking about Noor 1, which is a trough plant, and it's now, up to now, working for more than 8 years. It's a trough plant, which is based on cylindrical parabolic mirrors, and we start by heating a product which is called HTF, heat transfer fluid, which is an industrial fluid, and that fluid will be used in the power block in order to produce in a part the steam under a very high pressure, and that steam will allow us to make turn the turbine and produce electricity. And from the other hand, it can allow us to store electricity into the molten salts, and when the sun sets, we will do the reverse operation. So we will call that hot molten salt and exchange heat with it and with the HTF, and from the HTF to the deionized water. So by doing so, we can produce during the day, all the day, and also for 3 hours more in Noor 1.
Okay.
In Noor 2, in Noor 1 we are producing 160 megawatts. 160 megawatts is quite the need of something like 600,000 people.
Okay,
we are talking about the domestic need. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
In Noor 2, we are producing more than that, 200 megawatts, and with a capacity of storage of 7 hours, 20 minutes. It's using quite the same technology.
Yes.
In Noor 2.
Yeah.
Okay. In Noor 2, it's a little bit different. Okay. It's still CSP technology, means that we will use heat, transfer of heat, but we are using what we call the tower. You can see it behind me.
It's a really spectacular looking bit of engineering. Yes, yeah.
You're right. And what we are using is that heliostat. You can see them on your left and your right. Okay.
So you've a lot of them here. What's the total number?
Exactly 7,400 heliostats in total.
Yes.
Each heliostat has mirrors, an area which have for each one 178 square meter each. Yeah. Okay. And
which is roughly like a tennis court almost, or which you don't realize when you see them in a picture, but when you're up next to them, you suddenly realize just how big these are, and you can see with the car for scale.
Exactly. All right, Dave. And they are working like sunflowers. They are tracking the position of the sun, and they are reflecting continuously these sun rays into the top of the tower, into the receiver. Exactly. So in Noor 3, we don't need any more that HTF, okay? Because we will heat the receiver, and we will just, in Noor 3 especially, we will we will pump the cold molten salt from the bottom to the top, okay? And we will heat it there, okay? and afterwards we will return it into the hot molten salt tank. So we will use a part for the day and another part for the night.
So it's like a closed loop, that it's
Exactly.
the same amount all the
Yes,
time.
exactly.
How tall is this tower as well?
The tower is 243 meters
Okay.
high, 200 concrete, 25 meters of supporting metals, and 18 meters of receiver. So in
Okay.
total 243. At one time, it was the highest building in Africa. About
okay. Yes.
I'm talking about the summer of 2019.
Oh, so
Now it's-
recently.
I think it's yes.
Yeah.
Now it's I think the fourth or the fifth.
Okay.
But
Still
anyway,
impressive.
Still impressive. Yeah.
And the overall complex, both this and the other Noor, what is the total energy that you're producing here using just the sun each year?
We are producing at any time of the day. Normally, if the day is good, 582 megawatts. That represents the need of something like 2.3 million of Moroccans.
Yes,
I'm still
yes.
talking about the
Like
domestic
domestic use, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So you can just imagine how huge is it.
Yes, yeah. It's a phenomenal.
Yes.
It's phenomenal when you see that figure
Yes.
in a space that isn't really that big
Exactly.
in terms of the
Exactly.
footprint that this occupies.
Exactly.
And finally, this was the first one of its kind in the world. Is that correct?
It's not the first of its kind, but it is the biggest
The
of
biggest.
its kind.
Okay. Yes.
The first one was built in Spain, in the south of Spain. But the biggest plants in Spain, solar plants, are about 20, 30 to 40 at least megawatts. Morocco came and just changed the scale. The scale.
Yes, yeah.
So we are talking about 160 in Nord 1, 200 in Nord 2, and 150 in Nord 3.
Okay.
So 130, 40 is already good, but at the scale of a country, a state,
Yes.
it's not sufficient.
Yes,
We
yeah.
have to yes.
Yeah.
This is what we brought to that technology. I mean, renewable energy.
It's a phenomenal, very visually impressive site, but it's great to see renewable energy, solar energy being used at such a big scale. So yeah, wish you all the luck for the future.
Exactly, and if you allow me, David, it's just a step in order to save our planet. This is, I think, a good example from Morocco, but I think that all countries have to profit each from their potentials. Maybe some countries from the waves, others from the wind,
Yes.
from some other like Iceland from
Geothermal, yes,
exactly. We need, I think that humanity need governments and countries profiting from the potential of their countries in order to produce renewable energies and to make a real contribution in saving the planet.
Yeah. Well, this is a great example. So hopefully people will see this and will.
Hoping that we will give an example for other countries.
Thank you, Mustapha.
Thank you, David.
It's really an impressive place. It's hard to grasp just how big it is when you see these mirrors. When you're driving along next to them, you can see the car for scale. And yes, it does look like something straight off the set of a James Bond or some sort of action adventure movie. And well, adventure was what we were here to do. And the roads here were, well, challenging at times. And even though these were totally standard cars, nothing stopped us in our tracks except actually for ourselves. Because the thing is, when you're driving through Morocco, the scenery is so spectacular. You find yourself constantly stopping to take in the views, to get out, to take a picture, to soak it all up. And as soon as you get round the bend, you're stopping again to do the exact same thing. It's an amazing place. But we had places to go, and we had to get to our camp on the first night, which was out in the Sahara Desert. And as you get closer to that, you feel yourself getting further and further away from civilization, and there's nothing around you. And that's really where the sense of adventure in taking a road trip like this to somewhere like Morocco comes into its own. By the time we got to the camp, we were pretty tired after a very, very long day, but it was fantastic. And the camp was such an amazing setup. Not what you would expect when you're staying out in the Sahara Desert at night, but you can see just how well it was set up. We were made feel so at home by our local hosts who were putting everything on for us, including food and entertainment. And as dusk set in, it was an amazing experience. It does get a little bit cold at night, so we were quite glad to gather around the fire, and the locals made an amazing meal for us, amazing dinner, and then provided all the entertainment. And it's a real immersion into the traditional Moroccan culture. But for me, this was the real highlight. That night sky, absolutely phenomenal. The images do not do it justice. And we slept like a log. The sunrise the following morning, every bit as spectacular really as the night sky. The locals were perhaps a little bit curious about our electric cars that we had driven out to the Sahara. They had a lot of questions, but they were very enthusiastic and they really wanted to know quite a bit about it. Admittedly, not everyone was as interested in the cars. And the one thing I couldn't resist doing was getting out in the sand dunes in that dual motor Enyaq. But I had to stop because we had two very important guests.
When EVs first began gaining in popularity, a lot of people had this infatuation with range anxiety. Well, over my shoulder, Martin Van Peel and Ruska Cox have put that firmly to bed. They've got a Skoda Enyaq that they have driven all the way around Africa and primarily have charged using only the sun. It's a fascinating story, so let's go talk to them. Martin, you've got the Skoda Enyaq. What kind of made you decide to go for an Enyaq?
Well, we were looking for different cars for our expedition, and in the end the Skoda Enyaq was the best fit. So, for example, we looked at a Tesla Model Y. It's also big enough, but yeah, a lot of people have an opinion about the Tesla, and we were looking for a car that was that everybody knew existed, but doesn't influence the whole expedition too much. And we liked the look of the Enyaq very much, especially with the tires. We changed the tires, of course. But yeah, we liked the look. It fitted in the landscape.
So the car itself was just like, you didn't really do anything special. You just went out, bought a normal car like every normal person would do, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the only thing we changed on the car on the outside is literally the springs. So we have stiffer and higher springs. We are even still low in the back, but that's because of our solar system. So it's quite heavy with all the stuff we had with us. And of course we added solar panels on the car and also on the rooftop tent and box. And that is for charging the batteries that we have in the car. So that's also a separate system from the car.
That system looks and sounds every bit impressive. So maybe we'll get a closer look at that now.
Yeah, let's go.
So this is your solar setup. This is how you charge the car. Okay, talk me through maybe some numbers here.
Yeah.
And what is, like, what is this? Is this something that is commercially available for people?
Yeah, so the panels are lightweight, flexible solar panels, and they are not flexible that you can really fold them. But they are, and they are very lightweight.
Okay, yeah.
They are designed for roofs that cannot hold glass panels, because glass panels are quite heavy.
Yes.
And well, they are quite light. Their efficiency is a little bit less than glass panels, but still, yeah, if you have enough, then well, you can charge your car.
So speaking of enough, how many have you got here all laid out?
In total, we have 60 panels, and every panel is roughly 180 watt peak of solar, and it's divided in two strings. So two strings going to the inverter, and we have a total kilowatt peak of roughly 11, so 10.8 kilowatt peak. And
so it's like having an AC charger at home.
Almost, yeah.
Okay,
and on a good day, in the middle of the day, we have reached like up to 10 kilowatt.
Yes.
And of course we follow the energy what the sun can give. So in the morning you start very slow, and in the afternoon again. So it's like the parable of the sun. But on a good day we charge our car with like roughly 40 kilowatt hours of energy.
Wow. Okay. Obviously these are flat on the ground, but did you? I mean, the sun moves, and we saw this from being at the Noor power station. That did you sort of have to be quite selective about where you set these up?
It is better to put them in the direction of the sun. So as you can see now, the sun is already on an angle. So if we were able to put them in an angle, then our yield will be way better.
Okay.
How we solved that is that we were looking for hills and also dunes. So here there are also quite a lot of dunes, and then you just find one that faces the sun in a good way. We had also some things with us, some packs to put them on an angle, but it was only like 15 degrees and it took a lot of time and effort. So maybe for an expedition 2.0 that we really take something with us that we can put them in an angle. Yeah.
And to set all these up, I mean, these are all individual, but how long does it take? I mean, imagine with all the charges that you did during the trip, you got pretty good at setting them up. Like, how long does it take to get from you parking up to having electricity flowing into the battery?
Roughly 15 minutes.
Okay, so it's really not that long at all.
Yeah, and really, of course, the first couple of times it took a little bit more time, and also finding a nice spot. But yeah, you get to get to know each other, and everybody has his own job in laying them out and connecting them, and then it was really like a smooth process. And then like in 15 minutes, and cleaning them up is also like 15 minutes.
Okay, yeah. But these are, imagine, like, in terms of caring for these, they're robust enough for the sort of trip that you did, right?
Well, we didn't know, so it was also an experiment, and it was kind of scared as well, because they are still flexible but fragile.
Yes.
We put them out a little bit over 80 times last year in different African countries. And we did like what they call a flash test, so we could see how much power they still can give, and they lost like roughly 5% of efficiency. So it's really still fine.
Bad.
They're really good. Really happy with them.
And how did you decide on how many to have, or did you work with a commercial partner to go, okay, this is the optimum amount? Or I imagine it's a balance between you want to have a lot of them, but you're limited with how much space and weight you have in the car. So was it a bit of a kind of a decision-making process?
Yeah, definitely. And it was quite a difficult calculation to make. We made it on our own. And what we had in mind, we have been in Namibia and Botswana on a holiday, and we rented a proper 4x4. And then we found out that we drove like roughly 150 kilometers a day. So we took in our minds that we want to do the same. So that meant that one day of charging, that we could charge at least 300 kilometers. In the end, the yield of the solar panels was quite less than we had expected, but on the other hand, the car consumed less energy than we expected as well. So even with the tires are quite energy consuming, and the weight and the aerodynamics, but still we were able to charge like on a normal day like half the battery. But it was like a gamble, and we were sort of lucky with that as well.
So Martin, this is where you store everything. I'm surprised at how compact all of this is, even all these different layers for your panels. So was that a big thing of trying to, okay, how can we put this into the car and have it all fit?
That was also a big puzzle, and together with a company that is doing a lot of things with aluminium, we made a design. So we have 10 drawers, and every drawer contains like 6 panels, like 3 and then 3 on top in the opposite direction. And they just slide them in, and that's also stability for the panels, that they don't like bend too much.
And there's not a lot of weight on each panel.
Exactly. So every panel is maximum like 5 panels on top. And we just slide them in, and we take the whole drawer out, and then we just put them in the field, and then start charging.
And this is where the magic happens, I guess, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So tell us what in fairly simple terms, what exactly is going on here? What is this?
So basically, here is the solar going in, the MC4 connectors. So it's the 2 strings, as it's in the field, and basically it's CCS energy out. Yes. So the DC power of the solar is converted to the DC CCS what the car requires.
Yes. Yeah.
That's basically how it works. So we don't convert to AC, which means way less energy losses and also heat building up.
Okay.
We have 12 volt for the cooling,
yes,
and also for the safety equipment, and we have a laptop connection to control it.
So you can see everything here. That's what it's doing, how it's performing.
Exactly. Yeah, and we're working on a consumer version that everything works automatically, and you don't need a 12 volt battery and the USB, and then it's just literally solar in, CCS out.
Yeah. Maybe in the early stages of the trip, did you find yourself always looking at this, to watching what it was doing, or did you just kind of relax and not worried about it.
Yeah, we definitely looked a lot. For us, it was we called ourselves solar farmers.
Yeah.
So the more effort we put in, the more we get out of it into the car. So we were constantly checking if we could get more out of the solar panels, lying them a little bit better, a little bit less shade on the panel. So yeah, we're constantly working on optimizing the yield.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. And like I said, it's just, you've got your charger right in there. It's such a cool setup.
Yeah, we are now charging with 4 kilowatts just in the middle of nowhere, and it's still quite early.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will be a good day.
How did it ever get stressful when you were charging, or maybe not charging as much as you want, or did you just go with the flow?
Well, we go with the flow, but on the other hand, like the temperature is sometimes really frustrating. So now it's already quite hot, and it's like winter here in Morocco. But during the day, it could be up to 40 degrees Celsius. And we had an awning that we could connect to our the end of the car, the rear of the car. But then still sitting is already like very like hot, and yeah, that's sometimes quite frustrating.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of the heat for the panels, is there a certain temperature where they start to lose efficiency because they're too hot?
It's difficult for us to determine because every place is different. So we lay them out on different surfaces. Could be tarmac, grass, like sand. So it's very difficult for us to see how one compared to the other is better or not. So definitely it influences temperature by temperature, but not that much. No.
Before you went on the trip and you had this system, did you do much sort of practicing at home to sort of see how it would work, or was it very much doing it out in the field and doing it as you go?
We tried it twice in the Netherlands because the inverter was finished only a couple of weeks before we left. So we didn't have a lot of time, and it was winter in the Netherlands by then. So we couldn't charge it that much. So it was kind of scared the first couple of times charging in Morocco here. But then we found out that it's so easy, and so then we really found our way, and it was really enjoyable. We drove from the southern part of Morocco all the way to Ghana, purely on solar energy, although we could have used the grid.
Yeah.
And it's more than 5,500 kilometers in a row. So it was really amazing to just use solar.
And that is the ultimate way to charge an EV. It's perfectly charging off the sun.
Exactly.
And doing a trip like that as well. So impressive.
It was really, really cool to do so.
Do you hope that this will encourage more people to try this and get a setup like this and maybe go on their own adventures?
I hope so, but for us it must also more to show to people that if we can drive to Cape Town from Europe, then you definitely can go from northern part of Europe to the southern part of Europe with an EV. We don't think a lot of people will do the same, but what we showed is that driving electric can also be adventurous, it can be fun. And we don't expect that a lot of people will do the same, but if they have any questions or the idea, you can always contact us, and we can help them out.
There was one fascinating thing that really stuck in my mind when we were talking earlier, was that about fueling up.
Yeah.
And the difference, and you said electricity can't be contaminated, which never hit me until you actually said it. It's like, of course, you don't have to worry about your fuel or getting bad fuel and maybe that affecting a motor because it's just electricity.
And of course the voltage is the voltage can go up and down. So the grid can be sort of contaminated when the voltage is low. But in the end, it's just electrons. So even with low voltages, we have seen as low as 160 volts, while 230 was the standard in the specific country. But another advantage was as well dust. So we don't have dust in our engine, and it's a very dusty environment. And for electric cars, dust is it's just the air conditioning maybe, but not the car.
So it's just changing a filter, and that's it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's go have a look, because there's a lot more to see with this car.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the living quarters, Renske.
Yes.
You've got this fairly cool roof tent, but talk us through the setup you've got here. I know you've got big old box here as well, so maybe give us a little bit of a tour as such of what you have.
Of course. Yeah, as Maarten said, we are charging on solar, but we wanted to live on solar as well to be completely self-sufficient. So we have solar panels on the rooftop box, on the tent and on the hood, and that is charging a separate battery from the car, and that we use to charge electronics, but also cook induction and for a water pump. So we have 50 liters of water in the car, and that we filter ourselves so that we don't have to buy the plastic bottles the whole time.
Okay, yeah.
And then we can shower, drink anything. So that's quite nice. And yeah, last but not least, of course, the tent.
Yeah.
And yeah, the white box is our wardrobe, so we can enter it from the tent. And,
okay.
yeah,
so you can kind of reach through and get that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And how was it? Sort of. I mean, this is the thing. You did it was 13 months.
13 months. Yes.
How was it all the time doing it? In what is such a small footprint of space.
Yeah, it is quite nice. Like when you have packed and you want to leave, if nothing's laying on the ground, then you have packed and you're done and you can go. And you don't have a lot of stuff, but then you don't have a lot to worry about as well. For us, the tent was quite nice as it's the only stable thing for us during this whole 13 months as we were moving every day.
Yes.
And then to have a stable bed that's always the same, that's quite nice. But it's a very magical thing to live so much outside in nature, make your own food, water, energy to use. It's, yeah, very nice.
And there is a bit of comfort here, right? You're not, too, like you did have a little bit of creature comforts.
It's back to basic, but it is comfortable.
Yes.
So we have an air mattress and a soft one on top of that even. So we slept in this for like 95% of the time. Okay. So you do need a good bed to stay energized for the next day.
Yeah. And then you've got a certain amount of space, you've got this roof box, but how do you decide on a trip like this what to bring, what to pack? Do you think, we'll get stuff on the way, or do you have to have, we've got to have a certain amount of stuff?
Yeah, we quite quickly knew the amount of stuff we really wanted. It's quite personal, for everybody's different. For us, we really wanted to inspire people how it was to do this. So we did invest in like drones and all that to present it. And yeah, clothes you can wash every day if you want to, so you don't need a lot. So it's choosing, and that's quite personal, I think. But in the end, we have more with us than a lot of people think. So the car in the back is fully packed, and you can take quite a lot of stuff with you.
Are you both now expert packers when it comes to cramming things into a small space?
Maybe a little bit in packing, but also we have learned that we don't need so much. So when we got back home, we had a garage full of stuff we left when we departed, and we didn't miss any of that.
Yeah.
Never. So then having it again is quite nice, but again you think, why do I need it if I don't need it for a whole year? So I think we learned to live with less, especially.
Yeah. Which is a very good thing. It's what we could all do with doing that. In terms of, I don't want to talk about the difficulty too much, but what were the things on the trip that were challenging?
Well, for us it was very, we met a lot of people that had never seen an electric car, which is quite nice to show them and to explain to them how it works, and they're really curious. But then at some point you are tired as well of a very long day, and then you do want to give the same energy to everybody.
Yes.
And that at some point that's quite tiring. So it's nice, but even fun things have a limit of how much you can handle. So that was a challenge. And the both of us, we are quite ambitious. We like to do a lot. And when charging, we could make footage for the people at home to share. But further, it was also waiting and a very slow way of travel. So we kind of look forward to doing some more ambitious stuff now as well. So
you've got the bug. You want to do more.
Yeah. Now it's the next step, and we are fantasizing still. We just are back home. So but we have some good ideas.
If somebody sees this and goes, that's it, I want to do this. If they want to follow you on social media and all that kind of stuff, what's the best way to do it?
So we are called 4x4 Electric, so they can find us on any social media. And if they are really seriously interested in traveling the same way, then we are happy to advise on our learnings, as it's personal and we did learn a lot while doing so as well.
Great, Thanks very much. After talking to you guys and seeing this, I want to do it.
That's a good thing.
Thanks. It's been a really interesting test with this car, driving this car, which is in totally standard guise as it left the factory. We've done nothing. We haven't even fitted off-road tires to this thing. Driving it through Morocco, out into the Sahara, out into the camp was absolutely phenomenal to see and to do. And if I'm honest, it was the sort of thing that a few years ago in an EV, you just couldn't have considered doing that. If somebody said, do you want to drive an electric car out to the Sahara, I would have said, absolutely not. As much fun as it might have been, it just would have been so stressful trying to think about how the logistics of the whole thing work. Yet Now skip forward to 2024, this Skoda Enyaq, just haven't even thought about it. It's, you know, warm weather, or it's February at the moment, it's about 30 degrees outside, which is probably a little bit on the warm side for where an EV likes to normally operate. So we've got our aircon on the whole time, and actually it's been proven to be fairly efficient. We haven't even thought about charging. You know, we did get there, we arrived at the camp and we had just over 50% battery remaining from where we originally departed from, and you just didn't think about it, which was kind of really, well, we're used to driving places, but in Europe you're never really too far from a charging station, even in Ireland. But out here they're very few and far between, so it was a little bit more conscious of it, I suppose. The other thing that we found is that the improvements to the software in the car again adds a further degree of accuracy as to your predicted driving range in relation to how you're driving. It seems to be much more accurate in terms of how this trip has gone so far. And that's again something that when you're doing longer trips, when you're maybe, you know, need to do some route planning, that's the kind of really key information you need to have. It needs to be accurate, and this does have it. The Enyaq is also one of my favorite EVs to drive, and it's kind of hard to put any one specific thing on it. It's just the overall package just, I think, works really well. It just has a very good balance across the board in terms of driving enjoyment, driving dynamics. The suspension is nicely damped. It's, I wouldn't say it's firm, but it's definitely more composed than some other EVs, but it's by no means a bone shaker. It's not uncomfortable to drive. There's a little bit of road noise. I mean, this does have the bigger wheels fitted to it as well, which will obviously contribute to that, but overall the refinement levels that it has, it's right up there with some of the best of them, and the overall balance and performance that it has makes it a really nice car to drive. It's kind of sporty when you want it to be, but also it's just very comfortable, very sure-footed if you're just cruising along on a motorway. Around town it's pretty maneuverable as well, despite, you know, it's slightly on the bigger side, but it's actually very easy to maneuver. The stuff like the parking assistance and the cameras all work very, very well. So, you know, all those sort of features that it has are very good. The infotainment system, the native system, has also been improved with, again, a couple of minor changes for 2024 model year, but they're all things that make it better. They haven't done anything that goes, oh, I preferred what the previous version was like. The changes to the Enyaq might be minor, but they take what was already a very good EV and makes it just that little bit better. It's been really fun and interesting to put this car through its paces, to take it into some really extreme terrain and really push the boundaries of what this battery can do. It is a great all-round EV. Now you might wonder, which one should you go for, the regular Enyaq or this coupe? If I'm honest, it really boils down to what one you prefer the look of. The Enyaq Coupe is a little bit more aerodynamic, and that does give it a handful of extra kilometers on the range, but the difference is pretty small. So really it boils down to which one matches your budget and which one you like the look of. If you want to know more about either version, head over to our website. It's CompleteCar.ie. You'll find it linked in the description below, and it's a great resource for finding your next new car. If you've enjoyed the video, do tell us what you think in the comments below. We'd love to get your feedback on this, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.